Hello guys. In today's topic of this video is the importance of meditation and how and what is meditation in general. I was trying to find a definition in Google, but what I got from Google is like a story of where the word came from. But basically, it means that to some degree a mental consideration of something, right? And before even that, how I would explain it with my words, it would be you getting to that point where you control, let's say you're like a chef cook, right? And you're the one who controls what you put into your pot. You're not just throwing everything inside what you see on the shelves, right? You're taking all the food and just mixing it up, but you're being in that state of mental awareness that you, let's say, as you're the boss at the point, right? You're deciding what puts inside, you're considering what is salty, what is sour, what is spicy, what is good, what is not good, and you can actually like switch it up and actually be the one who actually cooks that shit, And because okay, and how meditation can be done, because a lot of maybe sources will say that, for example, in meditation is like when you sit down, as me for example now in lotus shape, right, and just taking deep breaths and breathing out and shit, or just walking in the park and then breathing out. I would say meditation, you can do any kind of meditation what fits you. The only thing is that you are getting to that point where you are the chef cook of your head, that you are the one who decides what you put in your pot. Let's say your pot is your brain, right? Like if I would have some papier-mâché or something like that, and I would do maybe with time I'll do like a lit as brain shape with like a hole inside, and I would just like do some shit, and you will have all the Halloween background behind me, type shit like that, so it's gonna look cool and shit. But now at this moment I'm in the nature. Actually, there's no specific way of how you can meditate, because low-key meditation is just you getting to the point where you consider, and you're the one who decides. it's a I forgot those bugs name. The one who has like the red buggy, with like with the red bug with like black dots. I forgot the name of that. But there's like a lot of them. It's like already 3 of them are running here around. But like yeah. So basically, there is no specific right way of meditating, because meditation in general, as I mentioned before, is like mental consideration. But you cannot mentally consider when you are in the space of not being aware what you eat mentally, physically, emotionally, types like that. If you're not aware of that, you're just eating up everything, and you're doing that unconsciously, subconsciously, but you're not doing that consciously, that you understand what you're taking in, and you understand how it affects you, you understand where it may lead to, and that's basically meditation, just you considering everything. Because even sometimes when you're you even have those let's say sayings where people like in school, for example, maybe you heard people say meditate on that, right? So you actually, like, if you have a poem and they say, okay, meditate on that poem, so you actually have to, or on a situation where you actually sit down and you consider it in your head. You just go through a poem, you read it, you try to analyze it. You're actually like mentally considering it, right? So that's basically meditation, and that means that meditation can be done in different ways possible. Depends on the person, to be honest, because I think sometimes I'm able to sit down, I'm able to take deep breaths and breathe out, then I like focus more on my breath technique and shit like that, then I get more to the state that I'm controlling, then I'm jumping from my head to my breath system, blah blah, my heart, and I can to some degree feel the temperature in my hands and my feet, like you mentally jump all around your body, type shit like that. And then, for example, when I get different thoughts, when I sit there I get those thoughts not just I get those thoughts like in the way of you being a chef cook, and you just have different food pulling up on like a railway, I don't know, like on a conveyor. If that's English word, then a conveyor. Like, you know, in the fabrics you have that line and you have shit going on, like moving, and you just like take and do something and put it back. So that's how kind of your thoughts are also going. I mean, like my thoughts. Like I'm sitting there and I have a thought coming in and I can actually catch it, you know. I'm not just taking it in unconsciously or just taking it in because we as people maybe are used to, without consideration to just take in everything what is being given to us. But at this point I'm actually considering what is that, you know. For example, I got a thought, I can track it down to the point like what was the reason of it even popping up in my head, you know. What I feel about this, what I think about this, where it can lead, is it beneficial to me or is it not? Is it my problem that I'm having this association with that specific situation, or it's not my fault and it just came with life, type shit like that, you know. So it goes beyond like all the shit. So you can actually, you're the chef cook and you're playing those like mental gymnastics and shit like that, flipping shit and cooking shit and roasting, baking shit and shit like that, right? But coming back to different ways of actually meditating, your meditation can be I remember also a lot of times I get to that meditative state when I draw, because for example at that point I'm doing something, you know, I'm doing something that I don't have to pay attention towards that much. It's not like me, I have to write the poem and I have to consider everything that I put on a sheet. Here is like more, because I'm not a profi in drawing, right? I'm not a master, and for me I'm just drawing some doodles, right? Google doodles, and it's like I'm just going here and there with a pencil or with a paintbrush, and then to some degree my focus goes more towards my thoughts, and that's how I also get to the meditative state. Because for example there are different people, right? And there's like different way of because some of the guys or girls are not able to actually sit down and consider all the, they cannot actually sit down because because sometimes I'm sitting down and then I have like, oh, I'm sitting right, my hand my head hurts, my leg hurts, my bone hurts, my ass hurts, and then it's kind of hard. But maybe for them it would be easier to have some movement, you know. It's not only that, for example, okay, it's not only the drawing that helps, and that's where you also have those quotes that say art helps, you know, because when you're doing art, to some degree you are getting out from all this worry and shit, and actually being in that meditative state where you are like going like that and you get some worry, anxiety in your head, and you're like, what the fuck, I'm not I don't have to worry about that. It's like, it's nothing, it's not that big of a problem. And that's why it kind of helps, because when you're doing art you're kind of getting to that meditative state. But also like for example, I remember once before I was going to the gym, and also some people say that gym helps, right? But in gym you have the same kind of situation, that you're disconnecting from the whole world, and the only thing that you're focusing on is you doing the exercises. And maybe that's how you also get to the meditative state, because you don't have that much of a flow going towards you as when you are not in the meditative states and consciously being aware of what you're mentally, physically, and maybe emotionally eating. Because for example, when you go out into the life, right? Okay, you went out from your building, you saw somebody pass, you thought about him, like why he's dressed like that. Then you were thinking about like how are being dressed, one of the examples, right? Then you're going out, then you see the red light, then you see a green light, then you see a car passing by, then you think like, okay, about the bus, then you think, okay, I'm like a little bit late, what the person will do this 5 minutes is I'm gonna be late. And it's like you open so many programs that your mind, I would say your mind, then your brain, your mind, it's like a computer, and you open so many programs that to some degree it's like too so fucking much that you cannot, that it overheats, then you have then you may have like headaches and shit like that because of that, because you're overheating, you have too much shit processing inside. It's like you open that folder and shit like that, and maybe even though you're not thinking about it anymore, it's still somewhere there, you know. For example, you're let's say you're worrying about the test, or you are worrying about you are not coming late to school, and now you have, for example, you're opening up through few processes such as, for example, okay, how I can get to school, right? One. And you're considering on all these different situations. For example, here you can go one station before the moment where you have to go out, and you can actually sprint, and maybe you will come 2 minutes before the bus, because you're gonna sprint and you're not gonna drive in the bus, which will take maybe slower in some case, in some degree, because there's a traffic light, and you're considering this thing is maybe you're considering also like where inside the bus I have to stand so I will get out faster, so I will not wait for other people to get out, but I will be the first one to get out. And then you're considering this other thing is like, for example, should I take this staircase, or should I take another staircase which is closer to the room, or should I get up first, then I'll be able to sprint, or I'll sprint here first, then I have to get up, but maybe there, if I'll get up if I'll get up there, then it will take more energy from me and shit like that. So yeah, so you have all those different, then you are thinking about the teacher, then you think how you're gonna enter the class for you to say some shit and shit like that. So you have so many processes being like going through your head, and it's something so crazy. And even though you're not thinking about the bus anymore, you still have that kind of worry that was initiated on that train of thought, I guess, that still kinda gets into your body and into your mind, making you even like in the end effect even like shake, you know, and actually get anxiety and shake and go crazy, that shit like that. Yeah. So that's why meditation is very important. I mean, like meditation, you don't have to, you just have to get to that meditative state. Even that meditative state, you don't have to sit let's say 20 minutes to get into that meditative state. You can even, the point of this all is for you to get to that point where you at least have the control of what you are intaking, you know. And it's even to the degree where you, for example, go to the shop and you're, let's say, hungry, right? So at this point you are so hungry that you can buy shit that you don't actually need when you're gonna be full with food, right? Because there's this problem, I remember, I think you also experience it, where when you're going hungry to the shop, you can actually buy shit that you don't actually need, but you're buying it, like let's say some chips, some other shits, because you're hungry and you're like, oh shit, that would be nice if I would buy this shit, right? And it's like even you going to the shop, before even reaching to that pack of chips that you don't need, to be honest, before reaching to that, try to take a second out, try to take one deep breath in and breath out, and at least do this, but you have to do it consciously, right? You have to understand why you are doing this breath for, and then it may help, because you will at least maybe if not so much, but at least to some degree you'll get to that point where to some degree, a little bit, you're still controlling what you're intaking, right? And you're the chef at this point, and you're like, okay, I'm reaching for this because I'm hungry and I don't actually need this shit, because at home I have already 10 packs of chips and which I don't eat because I'm on a diet or something like that, you know. But I'm reaching for it now because I'm hungry, and it's like an easy way of snacking, or just an easy on the way type of snack. And that's why I'm reaching for it, blah blah, and so there's you don't actually have to sit there like for 30 minutes and do deep breaths and breathe out and shit for you to get to that meditative state, right? It's like it also depends on the person. Sometimes you can get into deeper meditative states, you know, where you actually sit down there. And I think the more you are in that state, the clearer it gets, you know. It's not the clearer, but I mean like the more stable it gets maybe to some degree, because here at this moment you invested like 3 seconds into that, right? So you invested 3 seconds into that, you're like, okay, I'm reaching for this, I don't have to reach for this. Then you turn around, then you went, then you're like, okay, now I have to buy oranges. Then you went to buy oranges and you already forgot that shit, right? But when you're gonna do it maybe for 20-30 minutes, due to the fact that you already spent to some degree a long time, 30 minutes is a pretty long time, that I mean, it's kind of, I can explain it this way, like as a routine or pattern, right? Because for example, when you do some type of routine and you repeat it over and over again, the more time you invest into it, the kind of more stable it gets. For example, the same way as with the bigger bucket you have, the more water you have to put inside that bucket for it to get full, you know? So for example, a small bucket, you don't need that much water, but for a bigger bucket, you actually have to have more water for it to be filled, right? The same shit I think is here, where you are, the more time you're investing into something, the longer or more stable it gets, right? So maybe that's the thing with meditation. So you don't actually need that much of time for you to get to that meditative state, but I think the longer you are there, the more stable it gets, and the longer maybe the more maybe you'll even get from it, and the longer after you stopping meditating that state will go on, type shit like that, right? So yeah, and this is like just one of the ways of what is meditation and how important it is. Another one I would say, the breathing itself, also like a you getting into the meditative state, because it's also not okay, because everything how I see goes first mentally then physically. So if you're going crazy in your head mentally, it can end up you getting anxiety and you worrying too much, you stressing a lot, and then your hands are shaking, right? So when you take deep breaths in, that's why also like sometimes people say you have to go out, take deep breaths in and shit like that. Even I think doctors say because it calms down your nervous system, right? But I think it calms down your nervous system not only because you take deep breaths in, but also breathing is important, right? Maybe if you take deep breaths in, I'm not sure about all this shit, healthy stuff, but I think I mean like you're maybe to some degree putting new air inside, you're making your blood rush and shit like that. Because I remember when I was a few times when I was meditating, I think maybe every time, but when I was meditating, I was actually feeling that my temperature, my body gets a little bit more hotter, right? Maybe that's because your blood starts to run everywhere. So maybe that could be too. Maybe that's also healthy. I don't know. I think so. It sounds like healthy. And then, so yeah, so those basically are, I have 15%. So those basically are, so it's not only, so that's why it's important. We covered what is meditation. It's not something something you have to sit like that and do the and shit like that, but it's more about, wait, you can see him? Yeah, you can see him. And there's like a lot of them everywhere here. But yeah, so it's not something super duper crazy where you have to do it for a long time for you to get to that degree of levitating. Maybe that's also the allegory of, you know, when people in Hinduism or Buddhism, I don't know, when they meditate, they can levitate. But I guess the levitation is itself you being above all the bullshit. You're not being dragged here, you're actually flying around. So you not being stuck on some thoughts that you get, you know. For example, you got a thought and you're already stuck into the thought. You're like, okay, you're just sitting before, you're meditating before going to bed, right? You're meditating before going to bed, you're sitting there taking deep breaths, breathing out and shit, and then at what point you're thinking, okay, what is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Saturday. What I have to do tomorrow? And you're already stuck into the bullshit. Now you have all these processes of you when you have to wake up, what you have to do, what you have done today, what you have to do tomorrow that you didn't do today, which type of weather gonna be tomorrow, when you have to wake up type shit for you to do it and everything and all that shit, and you already being so the more shit you get into your head, the more heavier you get, the more not lighter you are, you know, type shit like that. So maybe that's the point, that's the allegory of levitating, where you get different thoughts and you're like, okay, skip, swipe, like I don't need to actually have sex with those bitches, right? Because sex is like just a mixture of two energies. Even you seeing something outside and you're taking it in and you actually paying attention to it, considering. I will also do a video about paying attention and how it is important for you not to pay your money, pay your attention, like, you know, tension, I mean like ABCD, so the first letter, or like the top of the mountain, so your point of view to some degree. Paying attention towards everything. You don't have to you pay attention towards everything, you know. You have to also consider what you're paying attention to, because it also depends on how what is in your mind and what is in your body, meaning like in a emotional way, in a spiritual way, in like spirit type way, in a mental type way, in a physical type way too. So yeah, it's very important to what you're paying your attention towards too. So yeah, and about levitation, that you're not being dragged into everything that you get into your mind, and you're actually so you're actually like flying, you're flexible, you're light, you have all this shit pulling up, but you're over it, you're above it, and you see where you can land or where you don't have to land, what you can consider, what you don't have to consider, what you can leave for later and shit like that. And I was talking about you're having sex with different shit, as you, for example, you're having some type of object and you're having an intercourse with it, you're actually considering it. Now you're putting it inside your mind. Now let's say you were in a park and you saw a guy skating, and even him doing a flip, and you're taking it in and starting to think about it, you're already having sex with it. And depending on which type of thoughts you will have, or like aka kids that you will make, metaphorically speaking, allegorically speaking, those kids will go on in your head, and maybe they will turn into demons, mutants, Cain and Abel and shit like that, you know, where they actually, so they can either harm you, or they can help you, or they can build something new, they can build some new way of generation, which will maybe also harm you, or it will be beneficial to you, you know. So it's like also important to what you pay your attention towards too. But this video is about meditation, and just in the summary, meditation is not something like wow, something like ooh, that you have to do for a long time for you to get to that point where you can levitate and shit like that. It's actually hella easy, and meditation just means you getting to that point where you start mentally to consider shit. You are at that point where you consciously understand where your mental space you're flying in. You understand in which areas you get into. Like, you're actually mixing up. You're not just taking everything in, but you're mixing up it as a chef cook. You know, you're the one who controls your mind, and not you just taking everything in and then processing it, and you thinking that your mind just goes like that. Unconsciously, your mind just works unconsciously, but it's you. But you is the one who made it work unconsciously. You know, type shit like that. I mean, some parts, yeah, they have to be unconsciously, but some parts have to be hella conscious when you take them in, type shit like that. Yeah, but basically that's it. And we also covered how you can meditate. You can do it in a bunch of different ways. You can listen to music if it's for you. You can go for a walk if it's for you. You can work out if it's for you. You can make art if it's for you. you can do breaths if it's for you, you know, different type of ways. And yeah, so just keep on going and have a good journey or everything. I don't know what you have at the moment. Bon appetit.